The new look Mazda BT50 range has arrived with fewer variants than before and no manuals anymore, but this range is better than before in a lot of ways, with significant interior upgrades, with more tech, and there are still plenty of versions available. I'll tell you all about it in this review, the things you need to know, and also the best alternatives to it. So stick around. If you haven't already, please subscribe and ring the bell, and let's get to it. Sorry about the voice. This review is primarily going to focus on the on-road elements of the drive experience. If you want to see what it's like off-road and why it's so dirty, you'll see a link in the description below where I went off-road, and it covers all the stuff you want to know about that. So that won't be covered in this review, but stick around, there's a lot to cover, including the pricing and specs for this model range. Now there's heaps of different derivatives available, 15 choices in the BT50 lineup, which is actually less than before, partly due to the fact that the manual models have been dropped. And there's still the 1.9 litre turbo diesel 4-cylinder and the 3 litre turbo diesel as well, but it does have plenty of variants available. So in that rear wheel drive range, you're looking at between $35,000 and $50-ish thousand, depending on your configuration, and in the 4x4 range you're looking at the 50s up to $70,000 or thereabouts. So competitive with most of the utes out there, and there's been some improvements in terms of spec and tech as well. Some variants get the 9-inch touchscreen media system with dials now, which is fantastic, and you've also got a 7-inch digital instrument cluster as well, which replaces the old 4.2-inch screen, which was too small and hard to read. And there've been some improvements in other ways as well. I'll show you the interior of this particular car here. This is the SP, and it's the high grade version, and it's got an introductory offer on it at $67,990 drive away, and I think it stacks up really, really well from that perspective, because you're getting some nice interior wow factor, some exterior wow factor as well, with these black cladded bits around the body, the sail plane, and you get a tub line as standard and a tow bar as standard as well in some high grade versions as well. I really do recommend that you check out the spec sheet and see which one might be right for you, because there are plenty of different choices here. I'm just going to mainly focus on this SP for this on-road biased test. So what about some alternatives that you might want to consider? Let's talk about them now. First and foremost, I think the best ute in this category is the Ford Ranger. If you can afford to spend the money to get one, I think you'll be very happy with it. It's a very nice ute to drive. It's got a choice of 4x2 and 4x4 models available, a couple of different body styles as well. And it comes with the choice of a 2-litre bi-turbo diesel engine, which is torquey and powerful and very nice. Comes with a 10-speed automatic transmission, that one. And then there's also the 3-litre V6 diesel with a 10-speed auto as well. And it gets 4A, so a permanent 4-wheel drive system, and it does make a difference to your off-roading experience if that's what your priority is. The Ranger is just excellent in my mind, and there's so many different versions of it to choose from. And if it's not your style, well, you go and have a look at the Volkswagen Amarok, which shares plenty with the Ranger, and it's bloody brilliant as well. Bi-turbo diesel or 3-litre V6 diesel available in that lineup. It's 4x4 only, so it starts at a higher price point, but you do get a lot of spec and tech for your money. I think it stacks up beautifully, and it's really good to drive on-road and off. And finally, if you're thinking, well, I'm going for a Mazda BT50, what about the twin, the Isuzu D-Max? It's also a very good choice, there's no doubt about that. And I really like the range of models on offer in that lineup. Plenty to choose from there too. The Blade version is a fantastic option as well. It's an off-road focused variant at the top of the range. You'll find a review of it in the description below, and my full range review of that D-Max lineup. So plenty of good choices in this ute segment. Would you choose any of those, or would you choose the BYD Shark 6, which I also think is excellent? The plug-in hybrid ute, well, it really does make you think differently about what pickup trucks can be in our market. Let me know what you choose. I'd love to hear from you. Righto, let's have a look at some of the changes to the design of the BT50. It certainly looks a bit more macho and masculine, less chrome. This is the SP top spec version, so it gets extra black bits around the outside. I like this redesigned front end. I think it looks really good. Not so hot on the wheel designs personally, but you tell me what you think. There's also the flares around the wheel arches on this SP grade, because of course there is. And you've also got the side steps and the sail plane for this model. Now, it's about the same size as most other utes, around 5.3 meters for a dual cab, and it's on a 3.1 meter wheelbase. I'll put some dimensions on your screen now. And while we won't be doing off-roading in this test, I will also put some off-road angles that you might want to keep in mind on your screen now too. Okay, so let's have a look at the tub area. There have been some changes at the rear as well, so excuse my shadow there. You can see for yourself that the tailgate has seen some changes. So there are now these little divot things to make it look a bit more rugged. The Mazda badge is now massive. It was already big, but now it's even bigger. And the tail lights have seen some redesign as well. Now you'll see up there, it says "Give it heaps." That's part of the new marketing campaign for this ute. And in theory, you will be able to, because now in some versions you get a tow bar fitted as standard with a wiring harness as well. And there's a full-size spare wheel underneath the body of the vehicle. And let's have a look at what's going on with the tub area here. So this one does have a roller cover, which is one of those roll top ones. So, yep, not the most elegant experience when you roll that back. And as you can see for yourself, there's been a bit of dust ingress into the tray. So we were driving on some really dusty roads for the off-road part of this review, but you can see, yes, there is going to be potentially some problems with dust ingress. But let's have a look at the tray itself. You've got some tie down points there and on that side as well, but none up the front that you can access because of the design of this vehicle. It's just something you want to keep in mind. I'll put the tub dimensions on your screen now. So it does have a very, very good sized tub, but you won't be able to fit a pallet between those wheel arches. If that's what you're aiming to do, you'll have to go for one of the cab chassis models or just rip the tub off this one. Also, you get a assisted opening and assisted lift for this tailgate, which is better than it was. It used to clang down noisily, but there's still no central locking for the tub gate. So yeah, some things that still could be improved, but it's definitely still going to be usable for lots of people's needs. Rightio, so this is your point of view perspective of the high grade version of the Mazda BT50. And yes, it is improved, but there are still some things that could be better. Okay, let me go through some of the details. So there's this 7-inch digital instrument display for the driver, which does have plenty of information and visibility on it, which is good. It does give you a lot of options to cycle through and see what's going on with the car. And then there's also this new 9-inch touchscreen media system on the high grade versions. It's got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. However, at this point in time, my phone just will not connect with this car. It was connected fine yesterday, but not today for some reason. That could get on your nerves. And it promises to have better reconnectivity. So when you get back in the car, it should be quicker than the existing model when it comes to reconnecting to your phone, but that hasn't been the case today for me with this particular setup. I don't know why, but let's have a look more deeply into this screen because it does have more info than before. As you can see, it's still very reflective. So yeah, when you're moving your hands around or if there's glare on the camera, you can really suffer from that. And it can be annoying, but that's our home screen. There are a few different things that you can cycle through on that screen on the side as well if you are using just the home screen. But if you want to know more about the car settings, you can go into the cars menu. So you've got your ADAS settings all there. Yep, you can turn off things like your lane keeping, your speed sign and that sort of stuff there if you want to. If you want to just turn off the lane keeping quickly, you just press and hold that button on the steering wheel and that will do the job for you. You've also got other stuff on this screen, so you can keep an eye on different elements of the settings of the car, your angles as well, which way your wheels are pointed, your tire pressure monitoring system, which works when the tires are warm and reading, and then you've also got your transfer case settings too. So all of that, as well as your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto when it's working, does make a bit of a difference. And there's a drop-down menu there as well, so you can quickly jump into some menus for this car. So the other big thing is obviously now you've got dials to control things, which is a bonus because previously, you didn't have dials, you just had those strange little controls on the existing screen. They weren't very good. But down below, you've still got the same menu bar there with your climate controls and so forth. Lots of easy to touch switches, and you get used to that very quickly. There's a pair of USB-C ports there, a 12-volt port, your transfer controller is there, but still no wireless phone charger, which is disappointing. Regular old shifter just like before, and you've still got some controls down here like your seat heating, no cooling for the seats, a rear diff lock on some grades, and the rough terrain mode, which is new. Make sure you check out my off-road review to see what that's all about. Hill descent control there as well. Turn off your parking sensors with that one. Like the fact that there's still lots of buttons to adjust things like that. And here you've still got the same very, very large cup holders. They aren't fantastic in terms of holding a cup in place or a can in place because they don't have those little fingers to keep things in place. And unlike the donor D-Max, you don't get pop-out cup holders on the sides of the dash, which is a disappointment. Now on this element of the dash, there is now a new design with that hexapod finish, and still you get the top glove box and the bottom glove box, which is a bonus. There are big bottle holders in the doors, and it's just a pretty nice looking and feeling cabin. Have a look at these seats. So the SP grade now gets BT50 embroidered in the headrests, this terracotta finish on the sides, sorry about the shadow, and a decent sized center console bin there as well. Up above, you've got vanity mirrors, but they're not illuminated, which is kind of odd, and a sunglasses holder, which is good. No connected services in this vehicle, so no SOS call button, but the headliner is dark, and you might love that. I don't necessarily. Got the auto dimming rear vision mirror as well in some grades, and I think that it's generally a pretty nice cabin to sit in, and better than it was before, but still not on par with some of the best in the class. But let's check out the back seat space and see what it's like. Okay, so this seat is set for my driving position at 182 centimeters or 6 foot tall. You can see there, I've got enough room in front of my knees, and I've got a decent amount of foot wiggle room here, so you can fit adults in the back comfortably. You'll fit 2 in the back very comfortably. 3 might be a squeeze. It is a little narrow, and there's a big transmission tunnel intrusion down there. But if you're the sort of person who's thinking, well, I'm going to use this as a dual purpose vehicle for my family, there are ISOFIX points in the window seats, but you need to be mindful there's just one top tether in this vehicle, so it means you've got to go up through this section behind here and over to there with your top tethers. And I personally find that you never really feel like you're getting enough tension on that tether point strap. So that's something you might want to keep in mind. There's a flip down armrest in this grade with cup holders. That's nice to see. The seat finish is very, very comfy. You get the same sort of trim from the front running to the back, and even on the doors, you've got some nice elements, soft elbow pads, soft arm pads as well. Grab handles there. There's grab handles overhead, and there's no lights directly over the back. It's just that front center light. Oh, and if you're wondering about headspace, yeah, if you're 6'4", 6'5", I reckon you'll be able to fit back here. I'm not quite that tall, but I'm fairly comfortable in the back of this car. And I do like the fact that you've got lots of points that you can grab onto for off-roading. Oh, a couple of other little things I want to call out before we keep going. So you've got this little pull down hook here for your shopping. That's a really handy one, I think. There are map pockets on both of the seat backs, and you've got a USB charge port there, USB-C, and directional air vents as well. No power point in the back apart from that charge point, but I think honestly, it's a pretty nice backseat experience for the size of this ute. As I mentioned earlier, you've still got the choice of 2 different powertrains in this BT50 lineup. So the 1.9 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel is, well, modest in terms of the outputs. 110 kilowatts, 350 Newton meters. Those are pretty low outputs. Comes as standard with a 6-speed auto, and it's 4x2 only. And it does have a lower towing capacity at maximum 3,000 kilos. But this one here is the 3-litre turbo diesel, so it gets 140 kilowatts, 450 Newton meters, no increase to those numbers, still with a 6-speed automatic transmission. You can get it with 4x2 or 4x4, and it can do the maximum towed capacity of 3.5 tons. But let's go for a drive on road and see what it's like. Big changes to the drive experience? No, there haven't been any changes to the way that the vehicle drives compared to the pre-facelift model. It's more about what it looks like and what it feels like, and nothing to do with the drive experience per se. So don't go expecting seismic changes in terms of the drive experience here. That's no bad thing, because the BT50 and its partner, the D-Max, were still pretty good options in the ute segment in terms of the drive factor. Not quite as fun, in my opinion, as a Ford Ranger or a Volkswagen Amarok, but perfectly suited to what dual cab ute buyers expect, and still with some pretty decent drivability to it as well. But I guess the big consideration, as has been the case for a while now, is this 3-litre turbo diesel engine. Just seems like it could, you know, have more grunt than it does. It's got 140 kilowatts, 450 newton meters. That's perfectly acceptable, but it certainly isn't a very enthusiastic engine. Sure, it gets along fine, but yeah, I've driven this engine in multiple iterations across the 2 different brands, and every time I drive it, I'm just like, yeah, it's all right, but it's not much more than that. It's all right. It's still obviously got robustness and reliability built into it. That's the whole point of this engine from Isuzu, and yeah, it's good, but yeah, just not the most thrusty thing. And like I said, if you are looking for something a bit more engaging, either of the bi-turbo options from Volkswagen or Ford, or the V6s from those brands would be better, if that is a big tick for you. Now, the 6-speed automatic, no changes to it either, and it's pretty good in most situations. You don't really have to think about the shifts. There is a manual mode if you do want to take matters into your own hands, you can, but the general drivability of it is pretty good. It does have pretty assertive grade logic, so when you start to go down a hill and you tap the brake or hold on the brake, it will downshift to try and use engine braking to slow you down a little bit more. That's probably going to be really advantageous when you've got a load on board or if you're towing, but for this test, it's just mainly on-road driving. The steering is very, very easy to predict. You've got the lane keeping system if you want to turn it on. I tend to turn it off because I find that it's maybe just a bit too pushy, but thankfully it doesn't beep and bong, which is fantastic. And you do have a speed sign recognition system as well, again, thankfully, which doesn't chime at you every single time the speed limit changes like some other vehicles out there. But otherwise, what about the ride? Well, it's a ute, it's a dual cab pickup. The version that I'm driving right now is the high spec version. So it's got the softer rear suspension setup, and it does feel a little bit more comfortable than entry-level versions that I've driven in the past, because they feel really, really sharp and heavy duty ready. But this is going to be exactly what you would expect of a dual cab ute if you're going to run around with nothing in the tray most of the time. If you're buying it as a lifestyle vehicle, that's probably part of the considerations. If you're buying it as a work truck, the payload stuff is something you might want to keep in mind. I guess one other thing I'll bring up is that, well, you do get quite a bit of diesel engine clatter coming into the cabin, and it's not the most serene experience. And there's a bit of wind noise around the mirrors or the pillars when you are going at freeway pace, but it's not too bad. So that's all I'm going to cover in this on-road drive review. I haven't had a chance to do any towing with this vehicle, but hit me up in the comment section below if you'd like to see a towing test. And you will find in the description below a link to my off-road video of this updated BT50. It's pretty good in the rough stuff, let me tell you. Rightio, let's talk about fuel consumption considerations for the BT50. There are a few numbers you need to know. So the 1.9 litre diesel versions of this ute have the lowest fuel consumption, unsurprisingly, the smallest engine capacity. And yeah, it's not a bad number. It's on your screen now. And then you've got the 3 litre, like this one right here. So yeah, it's not too bad in terms of the on paper fuel consumption, but If you're wondering what I've achieved across this drive, which has included a whole bunch of on-road driving across a mix of different scenarios, a bit of urban, a bit of traffic jam, and some country road driving like I'm doing right now, you'll see the figure on your screen. I think it's perfectly acceptable for this kind of ute. You're not going to see much better from many of the other rivals out there, I don't think. And if you're wondering, the fuel tank capacity for the entire BT50 range is 80 litres, so good cruising distance available to you. And of course it runs on diesel, and it doesn't have AdBlue, so that's one other thing you don't have to worry about. The BT50 achieved the maximum 5-star ANCAP safety rating in 2022, and that continues on for this updated version. And all versions come with the stuff you would expect. So there's autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. There's lane keeping assistance, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and rear cross traffic alert standard on all grades, all body styles, and all configurations. So that is great to see. There is some consideration when it comes to the parking sensor situation. Some models get rear parking sensors, others get front ones as well, but all models come as standard with a reversing camera, and that is all you can get in terms of the camera tech. There is no surround view camera offered on any model in this lineup, which is making it feel a little bit behind the times in terms of the tech, but at least you're getting things like speed sign recognition, and thankfully it doesn't beep and bong and give you the shits, which is good. And there's no driver monitoring camera or anything like that either. And when it comes to airbag coverage, there are 8 airbags fitted to the BT50 lineup. There's dual front, front side, driver's knee, front, center, and curtain coverage, and it stacks up pretty well from the safety front in that regard. In Australia, Mazda offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and if you're buying a BT50, that covers you for whether it's for work or pleasure. So business buyers still get the 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty. The brand also offers a 5-year roadside assistance plan, which is nice to see, and there is a 5-year cap price servicing plan as well for the BT. So the services are every 12 months and 15,000 Ks. There is a bit of a difference when it comes to the 3 different options that you could choose from. So the 1.9 litre average service price is on your screen now, and there's a difference between the 3 litre with the 4x2 drivetrain or the 3 litre with the 4x4 drivetrain, and the prices for it are on your screen now. So it does stack up pretty well in terms of the ownership costs and considerations. And also keep in mind, if you do decide to buy a BT50 and you go through Mazda's finance offering, you can get guaranteed future value on this vehicle. So that means you can set what it will be worth at the end of the loan term, as opposed to what the market might dictate that it's worth. Could be worth considering. This updated BT50 is better than ever. It looks better, it has better interior tech, and the spec is improved as well. But there are still some things that could be improved in my opinion, and I'd love to know what you think about the pricing in the comments section below. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you when I see you.